understand why we're in this mess, you need to understand a 30-year decision America made, one cheap t-shirt at a time. America didn't lose manufacturing in one big moment. We lost it in a million small ones. In the 1990s and 2000s, America signed a bunch of trade deals. China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, and the floodgates opened. Suddenly, you could make almost anything overseas for a fraction of the cost. So American companies did exactly what you'd expect. They chased the lowest price. And honestly, in the short term, it worked. Consumers got cheaper stuff, and companies hit their quarterly numbers. Wall Street loved it. But here's the thing that nobody was tracking. Every time we offshored a product, we didn't just lose the factory, we lost the engineers who knew how to build the machines, the suppliers who made the parts, and the raw material processors. The whole system went with it. And once a system like that dies, it doesn't just come back overnight. It takes decades or generations to rebuild. I'm not here to tell you a sob story about lazy Americans or evil policymakers. This is a story about what happens when an entire country optimizes for the next quarter instead of the next 20 years. I didn't fully understand how bad this was until I tried to build something and realized that America couldn't help me. I realized America forgot how to make its own stuff. Sometime in the early to mid 2010s, we were looking to expand into more commercial filtration products, specifically rigid cell filters, and I wanted to source the media domestically. This is a critical filtration product used in hospitals, commercial buildings, industrial HVAC systems. Surely I thought that somebody in America still makes this stuff. So we started calling suppliers, one after another. And the shocking part wasn't that the price was higher from US companies. I expected that. The shocking part was realizing that there often wasn't a real domestic source at all. We had the demand, we had the capital, we wanted to buy American components. And I remember sitting there thinking, if we can't source this in America anymore, what else can't we make? That was the moment that I realized China is a competence factory. American capability has slowly disappeared. Not just the labor, the machinery, the engineering knowledge, the supplier base, all of those things. People still think China's edge is cheap workers. That's the 1990s answer. The real edge is something way more dangerous. China's real advantage isn't cheap labor. In America, you bring a new product idea to the table. What happens? 6 meetings, a consultant, 3 vendors, you go through approval cycles, emails, a 3-month timeline at the minimum. Now, picture that same conversation in China. An engineer pulls out a sketch, somebody adjusts a machine on the floor, samples are running by the end of the week. And that's it. It's that simple. And the reason Chinese companies can move that fast isn't magic. The tooling supplier is already there. The raw material supplier is nearby. The machine shop is just across the street. Everybody is used to moving quickly together. In Shenzhen, every component you could possibly need is within a 50-mile drive. In America, your nearest supplier might be in a different state or a different country altogether oftentimes. What scares me is not that China works cheaper. What scares me is that they built a system optimized for industrial learning speed. Every cycle, they get a little bit better, and those cycles compound. Here's the part of the China story almost nobody talks about, and it's the part that should keep American business owners up at night. Manufacturing isn't a factory, it's a living system, and living systems compound. Think about this. If you wanted to start an air filter company in Shenzhen tomorrow, you probably have a working product in 30 days. Economists have a fancy word for this, agglomeration. All it means is that when suppliers and talent and customers cluster together in the same place, everybody in that cluster gets faster, cheaper, and smarter. It's why Hollywood is in LA. It's why finance is in New York. It's why tech is in Silicon Valley. And it's why China owns physical manufacturing right now. We didn't lose to lower wages. We lost to better geography. Why this matters if you're building anything physical is that factories don't matter as much as the systems those factories live in. Okay, so if China is so fast and so efficient, why am I still manufacturing in Alabama? I manufacture in America even though it costs me more. Let me give you the honest math. For most of our products, pleated air filters, China just doesn't really make sense. The product is bulky and freight destroys the economics. So that part of our business naturally stays in America. But for more compact products like air purifier filters and specialty components, it gets a lot harder. In a lot of cases, I can buy finished goods from Asia for roughly what it might cost us us to make them domestically, after all our overhead. And that's before American upfront investments in machinery or engineering work. So when I choose to manufacture domestically, I'm accepting more complexity and oftentimes lower short-term financial returns. So why do I choose to do it? I'm willing to accept lower short-term returns if it means building something durable that I can actually control. Dependence is expensive too, and most people just don't realize it until it's too late. In my case, I'm not waiting on a shipping container or getting blindsided by a tariff. Most companies optimize for the next quarter, whereas I'm trying to optimize for the next 20 years or more. My competitors are asking, what's cheap today? I'm asking, what gives me control over my future? And there's a massive difference between those two answers. Here's what nobody in the China debate ever tells you. America still has unfair advantages that most business owners completely ignore. Let me walk you through what an American manufacturer can do that a Chinese factory fundamentally cannot. I can ship a filter to a customer in 2 days, China can't. If a commercial customer needs a weird size next week, we can do it. China needs an 8-week lead time and a minimum order. American buyers increasingly want products made here, and that's a real premium that we can charge. Your design doesn't get copied and sold back to you on Amazon 6 months later. And here's the bigger insight that I don't think people fully understand. China's advantage is in industries where speed to iterate matters most. Things like consumer electronics or gadgets, fast fashion, anything where the product cycle is 90 days. America's advantage is in industries where reliability, customization, service, and proximity matter the most. And that's a huge category. Industrial products, HVAC, building products, filtration, repair parts, industrial consumables, specialty components. These are boring businesses, which is exactly why nobody's competing for them. If you're trying to compete with China on their turf, high volume, fast cycle, low cost consumer products, you're gonna lose. If you're competing on your turf on things like service, customization, the speed to getting it to the customer, reliability, you can win. You just have to pick the right battlefield. If I were 25 years old today and I wanted to build a manufacturing business in America, here's exactly what I'd do. First, I would not try to invent the next iPhone. I'd look for boring, unsexy industrial products. Stuff that's expensive to ship, operationally annoying, fragmented, or requires some type of high-level customization. Things tied to infrastructure. Stuff that serves commercial customers who need reliability more than they need the lowest price. The kind of products that most people never think about, but businesses constantly need. America still has incredible operators, incredible engineers, incredible infrastructure, but what we lost was system density, and that creates opportunity for the people willing to rebuild it. And if you already own a business that depends on overseas supply chains, you don't need to panic, but you do need to think about one thing this week. I'm not saying rip everything out overnight. That's unrealistic. What are the 3 to 5 components or capabilities that are existential to my business, and what would happen if I lost access to them tomorrow? You start there. You don't try to reshore everything. You start by understanding your dependencies. Then you ask yourself, could I dual source this? Could I bring a part of it in-house? Could I partner with a domestic supplier? Could I invest early before I absolutely have to? The companies that win over the next 20 years are not the ones that optimize for the lowest short-term cost. They're the ones that build durable systems around themselves, the ones that control their own destiny.